Hello, brothers and sisters of the Briar. Professor Jeremiah here. It's a kind of a rainy, stormy day. Really making up today for the weatherman's misprediction throughout the rest of the week. He had said that it was going to be rainy and stormy the whole week long, and yesterday and the day before just couldn't have been any nicer. Just real pretty days. So, for those people who live their life by what the weatherman says, well, you would have hunkered down and not gone out, and such a shame in this springtime when you're seeing all the flowers blooming. Today I'm smoking my Ben Wade. It's a nice little smoker. The only problem with it is it does build up a lot of moisture. So I always keep a few pipe cleaners handy, but I do that with almost all my pipes. I'm not afraid of using a pipe cleaner. Actually, I like to use them because it keeps the bitterness down, keeps the moisture out, just makes for a nice smoke. What I really liked about this is a long shank. My coworker has a lot of Canadians, and so I kind of always like the long shank on it. But for the style of pipe that I normally smoke, you just don't find that long a shank on them. And so when I found this, I was drawn to it, and it was an eBay purchase, a great eBay purchase here, and really there was absolutely nothing wrong with it, just perfect. I'm smoking Edward G. Robinson blend here. I mentioned this before, but I've not shown you the can. It's produced by Sutliff, but if you go out to buy a tin of it, if you go to smokingpipes.com, it's going to have its own little page there. Now, I will say it's kind of got a little fruity taste to it. So I enjoy it. A few of you are aware of this, but for those of you who aren't, as you know, I work in Nigeria and West Africa. And normally, my visits to the States, I'm only here for just a couple of months most of the time, and that's only every year and a half that I even come back to the U.S. But lately, our Land Rover, our old Rover, has been dying on us, and I guess it's not that old. It's a 97. We went from where every third trip into town to get supplies, we were having to take it to the mechanic, which that's a lot in and of itself. But we went from that to where suddenly it was every trip into town that we would have to make a trip to the mechanic. And even recently, my coworker who's still in Nigeria, he even had to leave it in the village at one point to go into town to get supplies because he couldn't get it to start. And I had to spend a lot of time working on it when he returned to the village. What we normally do, we'll be in the village for about 6 to 8 weeks at a time, and then head into town for 1 week to resupply. We can check the internet there, send and receive email. That's also where we can call to the States, because in the village we have no cell signal, so no internet, no electricity, no running water. It's very primitive where we're at. We do have a generator, so I'm able to have some power for my wood shop, and at night we'll run the generator for about 3 hours. But the part of me being back here at this time is just the vehicle's been giving us so much trouble that we really realized we need a new one, or at least a newer vehicle. And so we started a GoFundMe project on GoFundMe. If you're not familiar with it, it's a crowdfunding site. And so if you're interested, I'll put a link here. I'll put it down in the bucket as well. And so you can see our little project as far as for trying to get a new vehicle. Also there, I have video of us going in and out of the village in the Rover. And so some of you might find that kind of interesting and fun to watch, though it's not fun when you're driving it and when you have to drive it. But normally, imagine this, it's about a 12-mile trip that we have to make in and out, not the whole thing. Overall, it's 75 miles from the village into the city that we're resupplying, but 12 of that is off-road. And that 12 miles takes us anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to drive. So if that gives you a little bit of an idea of how bad the roads are. But as I say, there's a video up of that. There's also a video of the people who we minister to. You can see some just clips of those and get an idea of what the different tribal groups are like. We have about 3 different tribal groups that we minister to in our village. I also have a montage of pictures that you can kind of see around the mission station and some of the work which we're doing there. But anyway, take a look at that, and you can see what's going on with my work overseas. Well, I thought I'd show you a little something off my wall here today. This is a little bush pistol, a little black powder bush pistol from Nigeria. When I was in Nigeria, first in the late 90s, I worked as a youth pastor for missionary kids. Basically, their parents were missionaries there, and I had a fair number of youth in my youth group. And so we would make various trips and out into the bush, sometimes holding a vacation Bible school for people. On this trip, it was just a pleasure trip. I had a number of youth with me. A few parents had also come out, and we were camping beside a lake. And it was a place that we had gone camping a number of times. And this one day while we're camping there, a group of young men came down and were watching us from a distance. And didn't really feel any harm there, no danger. But I noticed one of the young men had something in his hand, and he was standing a fair distance from us. And I saw him like sticking something and working with this area, and you can see the little primer hole there. And it just dawned on me that he was loading a little primer into the pistol, getting ready to shoot it. And not really knowing what the intentions were, I just walked right up to the young man and just snatched the pistol out of his hand, and all the boys went running off. And so, still not really knowing what the full intentions might have been, I got in my car, which back then was a 76 Ford Bronco. You really couldn't have had anything better for Nigeria other than parts. Getting parts was a problem, but the vehicle itself, still probably the best off-road vehicle ever made. But anyway, I got in the Bronco and drove up to the village center. And when I got out, I asked for one of the elders of the village. And so this older man, probably in his early 70s, I explained the story to him, and he got in the Bronco, and we drove down to where the young men were. And before I even had stopped the car, he bails out and goes chasing after them. And it wasn't until maybe an hour or so later that the elder came back and told me that the boys wouldn't bother us anymore. So I'm not really sure what the outcome of the incident was on their end of things, but nevertheless, the situation seemed to be resolved. And I asked the elder, what did he want me to do with the pistol? And he said, keep it. The young boys don't need it. They're not responsible. So here's this little pistol, and so you just push down here, and maybe at one point it operated a little bit better. I will say that day I went on ahead and I basically for their primers, they would just take match heads and wad them up in a little piece of paper, or just stick a match head down in the hole here so that when the hammer would come down, it would strike the match and set off the load. But it was loaded that day because I shot it off later. It had a ball in it and powder. So anyway, you can see the little bush pistol. And you still see stuff like this in the village areas. But that's just a little story from something from the wall back here. Well, brothers and sisters, I hope that you have a good weekend and that you keep your bowls lit. I think I'm about out of tobacco in this. Be sure and check out that GoFundMe site. Some great videos up there I think you'll enjoy. And if you've not subscribed to my channel, take time to subscribe. So, well, thank you very much, and God bless.